not opening this door for anything. I'm not doing this again this year. This running gag is no longer funny. What was that? It sounds like a startled horse. Where are you, boy? Where are you? Oh no! It's the mythological creature of Scotland, the Kelpie. An evil water spirit that lures people into a false sense of security so that they ride atop of it in the guise of a horse, and then it runs into a nearby body of water where it drowns the man, woman, or child and then eats them. Oh no! Get back! Get back, Kelpie! I'm never gonna ride you, Kelpie! Get back! Ow! God, it bit me with its giant fake horse teeth! Who could have ever seen this coming? Why does this always happen in my favorite time of the year? The spooky season of All Hallows Eve. Released in 1994, written by Jack C. Harris, with art by Bo Hampton. This is Batman, Castle of the Bat. And leave a like for Spooky Batman. This bone-chilling Batman book begins in a weirdly similar way to Gotham by Gaslight. A horse and buggy run into a highwayman. Except this time, it's in southern Germany, 1819. The highwayman eventually catches up and forces the carriage to stop at gunpoint as he demands their valuables. The writer pleads with him not to stop on the road to Ingolstadt, and as the highwayman laughs at the so-called demon that protects the thoroughfares, a silhouetted creature with long, protruding ears sneaks up from behind, rips the man off the horse, and tears his head off. The carriage books it into town, and the writer, some guy named Dr. Gruber, speeds into the local tavern and exclaims that he was just saved by the Batman. As he tells his tale over a glass of brandy, the only thing people drank before the 20th century, Dr. Wayne listens and gazes out of the window. Wayne bids them adieu and rides home to his large, decrepit castle and meets his trusty butler and assistant, Alfredo. Wayne chastises Alfredo for still not having found the Batman sooner. Wayne apologizes for his actions and settles down, saying that he let out the rage he has for himself onto Alfredo. Flashback time. Thomas, Martha, and Bruce Wayne ride home to their manor after seeing A Midsummer Night's Dream at the local theater. Everyone knows where this is going. A horrifying man that looks like Blade from the Puppet Master franchise appears on horseback, and yada yada yada, the Waynes are killed, shot through the heads by one bullet, and Bruce cradles his father's corpse and exclaims that he'll kill the man that killed his parents, and then the frightened horse speeds away with his buggy. So then Bruce became a doctor like his father. He attended the Ingolstadt University and began doing Frankenstein-esque research and falls in love with a woman named Julia Lavenza. Julia Lavenza, a version of one of Bruce Wayne's love interests, Julie Madison. Remember her? Apparently she was in Batman and Robin. Eventually Bruce is alerted that Julia is coming to town by Alfredo as he's being chewed out by some of the university heads because Bruce apparently likes to lock himself in the school's labs after hours and not let anybody in while he's doing his experiments. Bruce learns that Julia is arriving today, so he races on horseback out to the only road leading into and out of town, and he hears a woman cry for help. The corpse-faced highwayman is back in business. He demands they lighten their valuables into his hands. Then Bruce leaps off of his horse and tackles the robber to the ground. They fight a little bit, and then the robber runs away into the fog. Later, Bruce and Julia go to Burgomeister Gordon's office. They tell him what happened, and Gordon questions how and why the highwayman knew Julia Lavenza's name. He asks Bruce if anyone else knew that she was coming, and Bruce says that only Alfredo did, but he's completely loyal to him. Gordon says that he doesn't suspect anyone right now, but he does suspect that there is something more happening here in Ingolstadt than just random thievery. Later, Bruce meets Dr. Seltsam. Dr. Seltsam asks why his fiancée came when Bruce keeps going on and on about not having any distractions. Bruce says that she came to comfort him, and Seltsam says that the only comfort a man needs is research. Bruce then informs Seltsam that he purchased the nearby abandoned castle. So I guess this is still in the flashback? When does it switch over? I have no idea when this flashback ends, by the way. It just sort of comes back around to the present. Later, that dark and spooky night, Seltsam appears at Castle Wayne, I guess, and Alfredo pokes out of a window and invites him in, and then immediately disappears, leaving poor Dr. Seltsam to traverse this dingy, broken, bat-infested castle. Then he runs into Alfredo, wrangling a bat hound. A literal bat hound. It has a bat's face and a dog's body. Bruce tells Seltsam not to freak out because his work is guided by divine intervention. Definitely the phrase used by sane people. Bruce leads his cohort through this giant crazy lab that he's constructed, and he tells them about this breakthrough. It has to do with how the human body generates electricity. You know, the same kind of electricity that arcs through the sky during a storm. Bruce has apparently found a way to isolate that energy and, like, transfer it or something. So eat shit, Newton. Then Bruce shows him all of his little gross creatures and explains that, you know, he found a way to restore energy in dead stuff, and now he's ready to conduct it on human test subjects. Bruce then tells Seltsam about the side effects, such as his dog turning into a bat because Bruce used bat energy to bring it back to life. Seltsam says that Bruce is, insane, and what he's doing here is loathsome. Bruce is utterly shocked by this reaction, and begs the doctor not to leave as he storms out of the castle that is literally falling apart. Seltsam says that since Bruce is employed with the university, any and all of his actions reflect their reputation, and he'll promptly be filing a report against him. Then he leaves. Bruce sulks around, followed by Alfredo, and then Alfredo falls through the floor. Beneath the floor, they discover some sort of cave. But not just any cave. It's a cave that leads them to the old anatomical vaults beneath the university. They look over the shelves that contain jars of hands and eyes and heads and other anatomy, and Alfredo asks why the jars are named. Bruce explains that these are pieces that were donated to science. In fact, his father was one of those people who donated his body. But then he says that they luckily won't find any of his pieces down here because that was years ago. But then Alfredo brings up the dates that are also on the labels. And some of them are from decades ago. Bruce says that modern medical science has no way of preserving anatomical pieces for so long. But he still marches through the vault, denying it again and again, until finally he finds the W section. And Bruce pulls out the preserved brain of Thomas Wayne. I think you see where this is going. And sometime later, Bruce becomes Victor Frankenstein. He raises the corpse of his father high into the air during the perfect lightning storm, and Alfredo activates the device, and the creature is struck by lightning. Bruce unwraps the bandaging of this block-headed monster man, and what is kind of Thomas Wayne freaks out from the lights, and after they turn them off, he cowers on the ground. Bruce shakes Alfredo back and forth, and says that this isn't his father. His father was never afraid of lights, and that the idiot hunchback must have grabbed the wrong brain with his stupid little arms. But then Bruce retches against a wall and apologizes, and says that he should have never gotten his hopes up and expected the brain to work after 15 years. Bruce and Alfredo then lock up the beast and say that they'll observe him for a couple days, then kill him and dissect him. Later, Bruce meets with Seltsam and tells him about his dismal failure. Seltsam reveals that he was also working on a way to preserve dead tissue. He created a solution about 15 years ago, and his first cadaver he tested it on was Thomas Wayne. But recently, his brain was stolen. Then he tells Bruce that he's afraid of someone trying to experiment on the brain itself. His biggest concern is that the solution simply masks the brain's severe injuries incurred during death. I don't really know what that means or how he knows it does that. Does that mean that Seltsam has rebirthing technology, that he found this out somehow? Bruce then bids him adieu and speedwalks as calmly as he can back to his horse and speeds home. He's finally discovered what went wrong. His father's last memories were of the terror he experienced just prior to his death, and Bruce has figured out a way to unlock the key to the mind of Dr. Thomas Wayne. Bat energy! Everything can be solved with bat energy. For some reason, Bruce dresses the monster that was his father in a Batman costume as a way to help him overcome his turmoil. I feel like he's projecting. And then he injects his dad with pure bat energy, and the creature begins to shoot golden light out of his body. What is this bat energy doing? Oh my god, it made him grow giant bat ears. Bat-Thomas freaks out and pushes Bruce out of the way, runs up the stairs, but not before coming across a mirror, seeing his hideous visage, and pulling the mask over it. Then he crashes out of a window and runs into the wilderness. Bruce and Alfredo use the Bat Hound to hunt down his undead Bat Daddy, And as they follow the trail, they are passed by a frightened horse and hear a cry for help. The two race ahead to find Thomas, snarling before a man and ripping off a ghoulish mask. Bruce runs to his father and pleads him not to kill this man, and the man cries out that he's finally being haunted by the spirits of the men he's killed, and that he never signed up for this! And then he runs away. Bruce and Alfredo discuss what the man meant by saying that this isn't what he signed up for, and Bruce says that he needs to know what's going on, because something's rotten in Ingolstadt. And it's not just Batman. So Alfredo goes to see the Burgermeister, and Bruce leads Thomas home. Later that night, Bruce falls to sleep and speaks about Julia while he's dreaming or something. And Thomas wakes up and sneaks out of the castle, down to the town, into the building that Julia's staying at, climbs up her balcony, and emerges into her bedroom as a terrifying man-bat Batman Thomas Wayne creature. He snatches Julia up and leaps away into the darkness. Meanwhile, in the forest, Alfredo and the Bat-Hound are found by two men who hold him at gunpoint and order Alfredo to come with them. Back at the castle, Bruce wakes up and discovers Batman is gone. Then Senora Martalina, Julia's aide, runs through the open doors of the castle and tells him what happened. Bruce takes to horseback and is almost immediately stopped by the mob of angry citizens who all speak in unison. The leaders of the mob exclaim that Dr. Seltzam told them about Wayne's monsters and that one of them abducted a young woman. Bruce is having none of this shit, so he just races away into the woods and finds a torn piece of cloth from the bat suit. Then he sends his horse in the other direction, so the mob follows that, and Bruce is able to track his father's trail down to Dr. Seltzam's lab. Dun dun dun. Who could have seen this coming? Another Elseworld story where the villain is a character created specifically for the Elseworld story. Bruce finds a window into the basement of the lab and discovers Alfredo and the Highwayman strapped into electric chairs. Seltzam says that the Highwayman has failed him again, and he begins the process of using his preservation serum. Then Bruce crashes through the window. He pushes Seltzam away and frees Alfredo. Seltzam explains that the main ingredient of his preservation fluid must be extracted from a living brain. Bruce demands to know how many people he's killed to have preserved all those body parts in the basement, and Seltzam laughs because Bruce considers criminals and ineffectual medical students as people. Alfredo puts Seltzam in a corner as he continues to explain his dastardly deeds. You see, he paid for the Highwayman to kill Thomas Wayne, because Thomas opposed Seltzam's crazy methods. Then the building explodes, and the ceiling collapses. Seltzam says that he rigged an explosion to destroy the vaults beneath the university, ridding any evidence of his doings from the world. Then the door breaks down, and the Batman appears with Julia in his hands. But Thomas hands Julia over to Bruce, and then turns to Seltzam, staring him down with a deadly gaze and snarled fangs. The Batman lurches for Seltzam, but Seltzam evades and grabs some loose electrical wiring. But before he can electrocute the beast back to death, Bruce sends a giant jar of Seltzam's trademark brain fluid onto him, killing the mad scientist. But Thomas then runs to the doorway, holding it up from the crumbling building, and allows the four to escape with their lives. Bruce tries to run back to his father, but he's held back by Alfredo and Julia. Finally, the entire complex crashes down around Thomas Wayne, the Batman. Bruce runs back into the dust and smoke, and finds the body hidden partially beneath debris. Thomas Wayne wakes up momentarily, and with his dying breath, he utters out, "Son." Then a massive explosion rips from beneath the building. The survivors leave the scene as that mob from earlier finally shows up. They explain to the Burgermeister what occurred with Seltzam's unholy experiments, and Gordon asks if that's what actually happened, an experiment gone wrong. Bruce explains that no, Seltzam's work was the reason for the destruction, but he was destroyed by the Batman. The end. I am here. I hope you enjoyed this very spooky episode of What Is. Oh my god, this wig keeps his hair. Let me know what you thought of this spooky What Is Halloween episode in the comments below. What did you think of Batman Castle of the Bat? I was personally quite disappointed by it. Not what I was expecting at all. Sort of a letdown, I'll be honest. As you can see, I am dressed up in a costume. I am Small Might from the popular anime show My Hero Macadamia. Oh, fuck. Excuse me. gonna keep going on. I just cut this part. Oh my god, what is... Oh god, the bite. Oh my god. I forgot that kelpie bit me. I must be having some sort of allergic reaction. Oh my god. I'm turning into some sort of Frankenstein's monster. Oh no, who could have seen this coming? Anyway, have a happy Halloween, be safe, watch some scary movies, eat candy, do whatever you do on Halloween. Don't go outside and let people see you if that's what you do. That's what I do. I hide inside and I watch people through my windows. Anyway, have a happy Halloween, and I'll see you next time. Thwip!